Now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It is 8:06. It's a busy Friday morning here on O'Connor and Company, and we got you covered as best we can with all the news. Plus, in 10 minutes, Redskins legend Joe Theismann will talk about this weekend's Super Bowl. 8:35, actress Gina Carano on her lawsuit against Disney. We had Supreme Court arguments that look like will make a very good happy ending for Donald Trump with regard to the ballot question. Also, we had Joe Biden's just horrible, terrible, no good, very bad day. All that coming up. It's Larry O'Connor. There you go. Larry O'Connor with Patrice Onwuka. It was a bad day for Joe Biden yesterday, Patrice.
It was. But a good day for Donald Trump. I mean, that's the flip side of the coin.
Yeah, bad news for Joe Biden that voters, it looks like, will actually be able to vote for Donald Trump because the arguments in the Supreme Court look like it's going to be a unanimous decision there with regard to Colorado trying to keep Trump off the ballot. Also, a good day for Donald Trump in the Virgin Island caucus. He won with 75% of the vote. The Nevada caucus, he won with 99% of the vote because Hillary Clinton wasn't on the ballot. Excuse me, Nikki Haley wasn't on the ballot.
Yeah.
Easy slip. My memory's fine, just like Joe Biden's. And then the special prosecutor's report comes out, says, Joe Biden absolutely broke the law. By the way, you know how they've been spinning it, and thank you to my friends at The Federalist who just broke this out. I think Margot Cleveland has the byline. The spin on Joe Biden's classified documents, there were 6 documents. It was 6. It was over 300 documents.
Yes.
The special prosecutor proved. He recklessly, willfully kept and shared classified memos that had national security implications, that had
notebooks full of notes. I mean, not just one single one, notebook full of notes, pages over spanning years of content.
Sources and methods, things that would put our allies and assets that we have overseas in danger.
Yes.
He did all of that, but he won't face a jury. Why? Well, because according to the special prosecutor, he doesn't have the mental capacity to stand trial. He doesn't have a solid enough memory to give any kind of credible testimony about the events and the years and the dates involved. And a jury would be feel so sorry for him that they wouldn't convict. And so the prosecutor decided not to press charges.
Wait, but isn't that making the defense's argument? Why not bring the charges, throw all of the evidence that you have, which you say is damning, and then let the defense put up the argument, the president, his mental capabilities are diminishing. He's not able to stand trial. And then let a judge decide that, or perhaps the jury decide that. Why is why is the DOJ playing both prosecutor and defense?
Patrice, you make a perfectly valid point if you accept the premise that we have a completely fair and equal justice system, that it turns a blind eye to what one's political affiliation is. But clearly we don't have that. But here's the thing. The double standard elicited by this decision isn't even the biggest story. The biggest story is that we now have a Justice Department official proclaiming in a legal filing that our president is not competent to stand trial, but he is competent to run the nation, and he wants 5 more years, by the way.
Yep.
I think this is the beginning of the end of a 25th Amendment process. I think Democrats recognize the damage here that has been done. The second Democrats make the final determination that there's no way Joe Biden will beat Donald Trump, Joe Biden will be gone. And he will be replaced by Kamala Harris. They're going to make the calculation that as much of a disaster as Kamala Harris is, it's going to be better to run a historic black woman sitting president against Donald Trump. They're going to say that's going to be the difference maker. All they care about is power and retaining it. In fact, I know they're panicking because it was decided at the last minute, last evening, to put together a emergency press appearance by Joe Biden so he could prove that he's competent, that he could prove that he's not a feeble, elderly man with a bad memory. And that did not go well. In fact, it made things even worse. Here's cut 45, Joe Biden.
Not share classified information.
I did not share it.
With your ghostwriter?
With my ghostwriter, I did not. Guarantee you did not.
But the special counsel said in the report
no,
that
he
he
did not say that.
Okay.
He did not say that.
But Mr. President,
Let me answer your question. The fact of the matter is, what I didn't want repeated, I didn't want him to know, and I didn't read it to him, was I had written a long memorandum to President Obama why we should not be in Afghanistan. And I was
All right, but by the way, the Afghanistan war that he voted for when he was in the Senate, and now he's trying to get credit for telling Obama that they shouldn't be in it. But in the deposition, is noted in the prosecutor's report, he's on tape saying that he did, in fact, share classified information with his ghostwriter.
There's no way around. There's no way around it, Larry.
No, in fact, here is CNN's Ellie Honig specific. This is on CNN.
Here are the facts. Joe Biden, established by this report, Joe Biden retained sensitive classified documents after he left the vice presidency.
Marked classified? Or?
Yes, marked classified, highest level, top secret SCI. They related to our international affairs, to war plans, to foreign relations. He knew it. He knew it. He's on tape after he's out of the vice presidency saying to his autobiographer, the classified documents are in the basement.
There you go. I mean, he's on tape saying it. But yesterday at the press conference, he's yelling at a reporter saying, that did not happen. I did not do that. I mean, by the way, this... Go ahead.
Let's not forget, Larry, that this is a table of hosts and analysts at CNN who have talked about President Trump cavalierly or carelessly sharing war plans with reporters.
That's right.
They can't believe that the very person they said, oh, this is totally different. This is totally different in every way, has done the very same thing. So, man, it's crickets over there.
It is. It is. And when CNN does this, you know that there's blood in the water. There is 100% blood in the water. This is the final nail in the coffin. There is no way they go forward with this man. Also, by the way, it's important to point out that while he was trying to prove to the press and to the American people last night that his memory is just fine, in cut 52, you'll hear him, you know, at the top of his game, astride the world affairs that he excels at national security. He calls himself a national security and foreign policy expert. So he wanted to prove that he stands astride the most important, complicated issues of our time. And he talks about the situation in the Middle East. Listen.
As you know, initially, the president of Mexico, Sisi, did not want to open up the gate to allow humanitarian material to get in. I talked to him. I convinced him to open the gate. I talked to Bibi to open the gate on the Israeli side. I've been pushing really hard.
Yeah, he just confused the country of Egypt with the country of Mexico. And he didn't even catch himself. He didn't even know that he did.
He didn't even make that distinction there. Big picture, Larry. I think what comes out of all of this, what came out of all of this, particularly in the report, are the words diminished faculties in advancing age. I think so far the left and President Biden has said, oh, my age doesn't matter. It's not so much age because it's two near octogenarians running for office. It is the mental faculties and the fact that 100%. President Biden's are diminishing. And so don't make the argument that this is ageism. Don't say it's because he's old. It's about his mental capacities. Because we know older people, seasoned people, who are sharp as a whip. He is as dull as you fill in the blank.
Yeah, Speaker Mike Johnson, along with the leadership of the Republicans in the House, put out a statement that concluded with, a man too incapable of being held accountable for mishandling classified information is certainly unfit for the Oval Office. Jim Jordan, chairman of the Judiciary Committee, and also the House Oversight Committee both put out demands to see the full transcript. We, the people of the United States, deserve to see exactly what the special prosecutor saw. We need to be able to read or see the tape, listen to the tape, or read the transcript so we can see exactly what led to the conclusion that Joe Biden is incapable of defending himself or incapable of having charges pressed against him because of his feeble mental state. This is beyond important. It's critical right now as we are on the brink potentially of more conflicts and more war. And we've got Chuck Schumer threatening to send American boys and girls in their uniforms to fight those wars. Maybe we should have a good handle on the mental capacity of our commander-in-chief. Just maybe. It's 8:15, WMAL traffic and weather every 10 minutes.
WMAL.
Making sense of the news.
Live
From the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios.
Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
WMAL. Making sense of the markets. Because generational wealth doesn't build itself. Download the WMAL app to stream us for free.
Waiting on Joe Theismann here to chime in on this weekend's big game, the Super Bowl. But in the meantime, I think it's worth sort of re-emphasizing here, Patrice, how damaging this press conference turned out to be. It was bad enough. It was bad enough already. And think about the logic behind him going on the air and saying, oh, no, my memory is fine and I'm perfectly capable. The prosecutor said he wouldn't bring charges only because he didn't think his memory was any good. If Joe Biden insists that his memory is good, should we then press charges? I mean, what are we doing here? Exactly.
That's a fair question to ask. Yeah. Well, with this report, is this report the end of the day? Okay.
Yeah, no, it's not the end, not at all. There's going to be more to this as well. In the meantime, we've got Redskins great Joe Theismann, legend in Washington, to give us his take on this Super Bowl coming up this Sunday. We got a lot of news today, Joe, as you know. I know you follow the news like a madman as well. But we did want to touch base with you. First of all, great to talk with you. I every time I go to a game at FedEx, I just want to see you in uniform bringing the skins down the field. But sadly, we're still stuck with what we got. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Larry. Thank you, Patrice. It's always good to catch up with you, especially this time of year. It's it's the most exciting time of year as far as football goes.
So it's weird to me that the Niners are the favorites here. I mean, first of all, the Chiefs are on the brink of dynasty here. They're coming back for a repeat. They've got a talented, incredibly talented team. And the Niners, their last two games to get to the Super Bowl were nail-biters. You could argue that they got outplayed by the Packers and the Lions, and they should be grateful to even be in the stadium. So why are they favored?
It's an interesting scenario. I mean, I've been back and forth on this. On Monday, I like the Chiefs. On Tuesday, I like the San Francisco 49ers. Wednesday is something else, because you just keep analyzing this game and say, okay, how do you bet against Patrick Mahomes? But yet you look at San Francisco with all their weapons and say, this is a football team that has come back. I mean, they got a 17-point deficit in one half. Yeah. So I mean, you see the potential there, and I think a lot of people may be basing it off of the last half that was played in San Francisco. But it's been no easy stroll for Kansas City either, except for the Miami game when the temperature was 15 degrees below zero.
Yeah.
Well, Joe, you've been in the seat as being a quarterback in the Super Bowl. Talk to us about what's going through the mind of these two quarterbacks. I mean, how are they preparing, and then what is it going to feel like when they step out on that field?
It's two different feelings, Patrice. First of all, Patrick has been here, 3 of the last 5 years, won 2 world championships. The thing you fight as a person that's been here before is the "I've been here before" scenario. We've all felt really. Are you too comfortable? Are the practices? You don't want to be too sharp in the middle of the week. And in the case of Brock Purdy, it's like, hey, I don't know how to be scared because I've never been here before. Yeah. So I'm going to have a good time. I'm going to enjoy this. I'm going to do what I've done that has gotten me, first of all, to be the starting quarterback of the San Francisco 49ers. And then secondly, what I was able to do to get us to be where we are today. So it's two very different mindsets, I think.
So you've been all over the map. You said you got a final prediction for us, or are you going to just hold out and watch the game?
No, because I love you guys. It's San Francisco. I'm thinking,
you're taking the Niners. You're an NFC guy. Come on, I get it.
Deep down, I guess I am.
Joe, I'm originally. I've been here in my 13th year now, living in the D.C. area, and but I'm originally from Detroit, and I try to tell Redskins fans or Commanders fans now all the time. It's like, listen, I've been through the worst of it with the Lions, and Detroit 3 years ago had exactly the same record that Washington had this year. And they turned it around. They got the right coach. They got the right quarterback. They put the pieces together. Give me the Washington football franchise better than anyone. Do you think that they have the capability of turning it around as quickly as the Lions did?
I do. I think any team can do that. With free agency, we've got more money than anybody from a free agency standpoint. We've got a very high draft pick. We're a pretty darn young football team. So when you look at the overall aspects of what the Commanders are, I think there's a great opportunity there to be able to grow. It's not an easy division, but it never has been an easy division. So I think you're right. You used Detroit as an example. Kansas City struggled for 50 years before they really got back to where they wanted to be, which is where they are now, competing in championships. So, I don't want our fans to think it's another 25 years before something's going to happen. But when you really step back and look at this football team, there's a lot of good potential. I mean, there's areas. Offensive line needs to be better. Wide receivers are good. Running backs are good. The quarterback situation, going to have to grow into it.
Yeah. And it would go a long way if they changed the name back, of course, but I don't want to put you in an awkward position to confirm that or not.
That goes to your political segment, Larry.
It doesn't have to be. All right, Joey Theismann, thanks for joining us.
Much,
the
sir.
Legend, the man. It rhymes with Heisman. He's Joe Theismann. Thanks, Joe.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
And you just heard it right there, Joe Theismann guaranteeing a Super Bowl for the Redskins in 2 years, but only if they change the name. That's what I heard, Patrice. I don't know about you.
That is not what I heard. but
I'm running
if
with
that's
that.
what you
Go
heard.
ahead. We're sending it to the press. Michael says.
Now,
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
8:37 here in your nation's capital. Thanks for listening across this country and worldwide on the WMAL app. We are America's morning show, O'Connor and Company. It's Larry O'Connor alongside Patrice Onwuka. Good morning, Patrice.
Good morning, Larry. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you as well, and I love that we get to talk to Gina Carano right now. She reminds me of you, Patrice, and Julie Gunlock and all the women at Independent Women's Forum. She is a fighter. She stands up for what she believes, and she's a super talented woman. Gina Carano, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Good morning.
And thanks for waking up. I know you're on Mountain Time right now, so thanks for being here, part of our morning here in D.C.
If you hear any snoring in the background, it's my dogs. They're not quite awake
hilarious.
yet.
Meredith and I, like the rest of America, my wife Meredith and I were watching Mandalorian during the pandemic, of course, and your character comes on the screen, and she immediately says, "Oh my God, that's Gina Carano, the mixed martial art fighter." And I'm like, "Who?" Because she's in that world, and I'm not. And then I see you were phenomenal in the show, of course. I start following you on social media, and it's like, oh, my God, she's the perfect woman. And you were such a big part of building up that show's fan base and expanding the reach of that audience to people who may not have even tried to watch The Mandalorian. And then Disney fires you. And you've decided now to engage this lawsuit against them. And I'd love to, because you don't seem necessarily like the person's like, that's it, I'm going to sue you. But this is more than just them firing you. It's what they said about you when they dismissed you, right?
Right, yeah. I mean, it's just, looking back and even going through the emails and going through all of this stuff that I'm sending over to the lawyers, I'm just like kind of dumbfounded, like how I had such wonderful relations with everybody on that set, with everybody that I came into contact with. I'm not like, I know I'm like a fighter, but I'm not like this troublemaker. I'm always super grateful because I can't believe I've gotten as far as I've gotten, in my fight career and in acting. I'm just like super grateful to be there, and for them to come out and say that I was abhorrent and denigrating off of people's cultural and religious beliefs after knowing me and working with me at a time, where a couple of years ago, that's a pretty dangerous thing to say about someone. Yeah. I mean, it's a dangerous thing to say regardless, but, when all of our emotions were so flared at that time, to say that about me was just the worst possible thing. And they said it over the internet. They didn't tell me, nobody called me from the company and said, hey, we're just not going to work with you. We don't, and so it's like, I had paparazzi outside my house. I had stalkers. It was a very dangerous situation. I had to move out of that house. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's so unfortunate. And I think that people's emotions just got like way too intense. And I don't know how something like that could have happened. And to me,
Sadly, Gina, this happens too often to too many people who veer from what is like the liberal agenda or the Hollywood mindset. And from what I read, they threw racism allegations, transphobic, everything at you. But talk to us about the genesis of this lawsuit. It has to do with one of the richest men, or the richest man in the world, Elon Musk. Is that right?
Yeah. It was kind of, I was at a point where it's been almost about 3 years since it happened. And, I had approached lawyers before, but it was kind of like, okay, I have to get out and go use some money to like get resettled in a completely different place so I feel safe, or start, this lawsuit with, Disney. And so I decided to kind of like, okay, let me just try to go get into a better place. Well, right when I was like, okay, I gotta just, move on. This hurts, and I'm trying to get my career started again, and it's really hard, because, people's first question is like, well, what's your relationship with Disney? And I'm like, well, they fired me. So, but then I got a email from one of X's lawyers, and that they had hired, and that was the beginning. And I responded in probably less than like an hour. It's just like that email was like one of those jaw-dropping moments where it's like, yes, I will tell you everything. I'll let you know my story. And so I let them know my story, and I started sending them over stuff so they could review, and they were just, in shock. And they went back to X, and they said, we absolutely want to take on this case.
I think one of the most compelling things about your case is, Disney pointed to a post that you made. It was political in nature, and it referenced a World War II era Germany. But at the same time, your co-star, Pedro Pascal, who plays the Mandalorian, he did the same thing, referring to Donald Trump and comparing his supporters to Hitler and Nazis. So, I mean, it certainly seems like there's a double standard here at play. Do you have a relationship with Pedro Pascal at this point? Because I got to think that anybody who loves the arts, loves freedom of speech, loves the creative process, they've got to hate the idea of a corporation doing this to a fellow artist.
Yeah, actually, we just lost a co-star, Carl Weathers, last Friday, which was, I was in Florida, and I was at Universal Studios. They were giving me like a special treatment kind of thing. It's the first time I've been there. And then I found out, and I had to go immediately back to my hotel. And, I actually have heard from Pedro, and it was a beautiful interaction. And, me and Pedro were very, very close. And then it was really sad because politics and the news and everything kind of tore us apart. But then just recently, after Carl's
great
passing,
to hear.
Yeah, and so, I know that, I absolutely adore Pedro. He is such a beautiful, spirit, and I respect his right to, free speech and to say what he's going to say. I just, so this lawsuit isn't against anybody that I worked with. It's not, it's against Lucasfilm and Disney. It's not against,
seems that way.
My beloved co-stars. I love them.
And one of the reasons we are really focused on this and think it's a great idea, Gina Carano, is because what you have experienced at a very high level with a very high profile with a company like Disney, so many Americans have to experience on a regular basis at their workplace and with their coworkers and with their companies. Is that partly why you're doing this? It's not just to make money, but you want to make a point here and inspire other people that they can fight back.
Well, I just, I broke down some barriers with the female mixed martial arts, and I went through that door. And now it feels like, I feel like I'm going through another door. And absolutely, I mean, we have doctors, lawyers, firefighters. We have so many people that have, cops. We have so many people that have given their entire life to, to a profession to help people. And it's just like, in the last couple of years, so much got stripped away from people. It breaks my heart that didn't need to happen. We needed our leaders to be, of sound mind and have a just and steady hand. And it seemed like, the leaders of corporations and the leaders of government, everybody just got so emotionally out of control. And so I feel like, yes, we need to start righting the wrongs. And if my case if my case stands for that to people, and I hope it does in people's hearts and minds, then absolutely, I hope it's the biggest case we could possibly make.
Your lawyers would probably hate for you to answer this question, but I'll ask it anyway. Would you accept an out-of-court? Would you accept a settlement? Because I bet you Disney will just want to throw something at you to make this go away. But you seem like the type that says, no, I want this fight, and I want a decision.
You know, I'm pretty new to this, right? I've never actually been in court, and I'm learning a lot about it, and it's actually really fascinating. I'm respecting like the court system and lawyers and what everybody does so much more. I have to say, I don't ever, I'm very like, my heart is like pure, and I feel like, I do feel like God's going to kind of open the doors as he did with this, and kind of, we'll see where this goes. I'm not like a mean-spirited person, so I want people to get along. I really do.
Yeah.
I want people to, clean things up and do what's right. So we'll just kind of see where it goes, I guess.
Well, thank you.
Beautiful.
You think my lawyers would be happy with that answer?
No, I think they will be. Listen, I think you're a great role model for young women and for young men to stand up for what's right, do the right thing, work your butt off to achieve some pretty incredible things. You are a woman of valor, if I may say,
a happy
Gina
warrior,
Carano.
we would call you, Gina, at IWF. You are a happy warrior.
Keep us updated on this lawsuit.
I will. Thank you so much for having me.
You bet. Good morning.
Thank you.
It's 8:46.
Baltimore, Washington Parkway, so much.
Kids need stars like you. Visit Make-A-Wish at wish.org.
All right, Patrice, that's a wrap. Thanks for being with us on this very, very busy morning.
Absolutely.
And Monday, we're going to have Joe DeGeneva. He'll have plenty to say. And we'll also have some conversation about the Taylor Swift TV show that will be broadcast on Sunday, along with a football game. Here comes Chris Plant. Gosh, Chris, what are you going to talk about today?
Mostly Taylor Swift. And because
join the club.
A little bit of Usher, too.
Biggest thing ever. Taylor Swift is the drinking game, though. Every time they cut away to Taylor Swift, that's the drinking game cue. She blames her staff. For all that. Yeah, Joe Biden. We've got Joe Biden here. Yesterday at about 3:30 in the afternoon, I said, this is the end of Joe Biden's presidency.
Yeah, agreed.
I believe that this is the end of Joe Biden's presidency.